What's up, Tiger fans? It's the Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al, and tonight we have a great show for you.
That's right. Tonight we'll talk Clemson dropping to number 2 in the polls and give you our Clemson position grades for the UNC game.
We'll hand out helmet stickers for excellent performance and wrap it all up with our Week 6 picks against the spread. Hey, don't forget, we also have open phone lines again tonight. Get in. We want to hear from you. Let's load the buses, Tiger fans. We are live.
The Morgan Thomas Show, brought to you by Black's Tire Inc.
Here we go. You are watching and listening to the Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al. I'm your host and producer, Morgan Thomas. Joining me is my co-host and good friend, Big Al, Alan Adams. Welcome back, Alan.
Yes, glad to be here. My nerves still a little shot from last Saturday, but other than that, we'll talk about that later in the show. But other than that, hey, it's a win. I'll take it. Glad to be here as always.
Got to be happy for a win for sure, even though it's by 1 point. We're streaming live in Greenville, South Carolina, wherever you may be watching or listening. Welcome to the show. You can check out our show over on Facebook, YouTube, and The Roar, and listen to us on The Roar at 105.5. Tonight, the show is brought to you by Black's Tire Inc. in Westminster, South Carolina, family owned and operated since 1971. If you need new tires, brakes, alignments, tire repair, or just looking for a friendly professional to help answer your questions, check out Black's Tire Inc., located 1415 East Main Street, Westminster, South Carolina. Give them a call, 864-647-9292. You go by the stadium, take a left, you keep going to Seneca, past the Seneca Walmart, and Black's Tire will be on the right, just a little bit, right into Westminster there, so not too far away from Tiger Town. But we're excited. It's episode number 39 for us, and it's a fun time. We always like to come back and give you our opinions on Tigers, on how the Tigers did last week, and we hope you enjoyed, at least got a little bit of a scare. Hopefully you enjoyed the win, at least, even though it was kind of turned your stomach a little bit, like Al said. Welcome. If you're joining us on YouTube, welcome. Let us know in the comments where you're from and tell us hello. We'll make sure, if you have any questions, make sure to put them in there. We will talk about it when we get to it. We have 7 watching over on YouTube right now, so thank you. Welcome to the Morgan Thomas Show weekly, every Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. Al, how many people do we have over on Facebook?
Looking at about 15 right now, as Facebook usually does. We kind of start off strong, so hopefully we stay that way all night.
Oh, nice. Thanks, Facebook, for supporting us there, and YouTube as well. So we hope to continue to grow as the show goes on. Hey, how can you help the show grow? Well, make sure you like the video over on YouTube or Facebook, and make sure you share the video with your friends. If you're not a subscriber on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. If you don't follow us on Facebook, make sure you follow us on Facebook as well. And we have our Twitter handles in there. Alan's not really big on Twitter. But I like to be on Twitter, and as R. White said that he appreciated some of the analysis, I've decided to move over to Twitter to put some of my football analysis on there, because Facebook's kind of, it's a little bit toxic right now. You say one thing about the offense, and people just blow up like you're not a fan. And that's not the case. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody watched the show or watched the game, right? And so let's respect everybody's opinions. But I go on Twitter, and everybody seems to love it. So I'm going with Twitter. If you want to see those plays, I took clips of different plays and kind of drew out the routes and showed you the result and showed you kind of what they did in certain situations. So check that out if you like it. But Al, did you have a good week so far? You said you were scared with the game. Did you ever feel like that Clemson was in risk of losing that game?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people like to, get on there and be confident and say, I never felt like Clemson was going to lose. We've been through this before. And that's true. But there was a lot of makings for an upset. It's a hungry team who had just kind of, had a decent start, who got knocked off by Wake and got knocked off by App State. The home crowd was rocking. Those fans were loud. They were hungry for a win. They were right there. I was concerned the whole drive there at the end that if they got in, that they were going to go for 2. With the BT Potters miss earlier in the game, that was going to be a kind of a rough deal. Can Trevor Lawrence lead him down, and can he make a kick or get in the end zone or whatever it may be? So yeah, I was absolutely nervous. I stay that way though because I love my Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the crowd was into it too. I felt like when you looked at it from the television, I mean, there was a lot of baby blue out there, or Carolina blue. Sorry, excuse me. I mean, offended about anybody, but a lot of Carolina blue out there, a lot of Clemson orange out there too. It's kind of, I feel like those colors kind of go together a little bit. Maybe not the two teams, but Carolina blue and orange. It's not a bad combination there in the stands. Not as bad as like orange and that other color in Columbia. That's just, I don't think that color matches much of anything. But welcome to the show. I got a lot of people saying over on YouTube that Lexington, Five Forks, Florida, some people Rock Hill. So welcome to the show. I appreciate it. Al, so I wanted to give you kind of our icebreaker topic of the night. And this is something that a lot of people have been talking about. Experts have been kind of going through it every day since that UNC game. Should Clemson be ranked number 2? Or maybe they should be ranked even lower than that, as Paul Feinbaum suggested. They're not even a top 4 team. Should Clemson even be a top 4 team right now? Are they playing like they're a top 4 team? Some of the experts are saying that Clemson leaving Chapel Hill with a 1-point victory, 21-20, kind of takes them out of that elite team because they're not able to blow out those unranked teams. I know a lot of people feel like that's a controversial topic, and a lot of debate over on social media about it this week. How far does Clemson need to fall or deserve to fall? I think a lot of people felt like Clemson should fall. Some people were on the other side, felt like Clemson shouldn't have fallen at all, and that they're going to continue to get better and better as the weeks go on. Some people liked it because it gives Clemson a chip on the shoulder that they haven't had this year because they've been number 1. But since Saturday, Clemson is now number 2 in the AP poll behind Alabama. Not too familiar with them, are we? And then you got Georgia, Ohio State, LSU rounding out the AP top 5. So, Alan, I start off the night by asking you this question. Should Clemson be ranked number 2, or maybe should they be even lower?
Well, let me tell you, first of all, I don't agree with a lot Paul Feinbaum says, that's for sure. And I mean, really, what Tiger fan does, if we're being honest. But I didn't really hear his show. I heard he said Clemson should be out of the top 4. And honestly, it's really difficult to argue against that if you only look at what has happened this year. See, a lot of people when they're, making these polls and they do the preseason polls, obviously ESPN wants to tout, that number 2 is playing number 8 or whatever it may be. So obviously they want the preseason rankings, and I'm fine with that. But they take into consideration last year. And if you're only looking at the body of work this year, yeah, there's an excellent argument for Clemson not even being in the top 4. Do I care? No, absolutely not, because obviously the numbers are going to work out in the end. Clemson just has to take care of their business. I don't care if it's a 1-point win or a 40-point win. They really doesn't matter. As long as they're undefeated at the end of the season, I think they're going to be fine. It's a little bit different. This year is kind of funny because we don't have a good strength of schedule. Everybody knows how weak our strength of schedule is, but we have 2 SEC teams, in our non-conference. I mean, what more do you want us to do? It just happens to be a down year. So, it's not really our fault, that we're having these teams that are kind of a weak schedule. A&M was kind of supposed to be our signature win. And obviously that win looks worse and worse every week. Obviously they played, Arkansas, a terrible Arkansas team to the wire. So that doesn't help us any. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me. I think you have to take a look at some of these other teams, Georgia, LSU, Ohio State, Auburn. There's cases for Oklahoma, Alabama and Wisconsin. You can talk about any of those teams really. And there's an argument at least for them to be above Clemson. I'm not saying I would put all of them above Clemson because I wouldn't. And I truly think Clemson is one of the top 4 teams in the country, and it's going to bear it out over time. But right now, in a snapshot of the moment, yeah, I can understand them being knocked down number 2 for sure. And I wouldn't have been surprised had they been knocked out farther or if they continue to drop as the season goes on.
A lot of good points there, Al, and a lot of things I agree with for sure. Clemson's strength of schedule has been under fire since well before the season even started. Yeah. Everybody kind of anticipated that the ACC was going to be pretty down. It was going to be Clemson and no one, right, to even test them at all. But as Dabo has said, the ACC is a challenging conference. It's not; they don't have a bunch of top 25 teams by any means. But they do have teams that are just barely out of the top 25 or maybe hovering around that 40 range. Those teams kind of get ignored. It's like if you're not in the top 25, you must be 120th. Well, we know that's not true. Some of these top 25 teams could be 26. Maybe they're the 27th best team. And maybe like Kirk Herbstreit has said, hey, when you're the number one team, you're going to get everybody's number one effort. Going forward through the rest of the year. They're going to want to try to knock you off. Hey, even if you've lost 7 games this year, beating the number one team in the nation is something you're going to tell your kids and your grandkids if you were on that team. So they're excited for that. Teams are ready to play, and they want to show what they can do. Hey, if you do really well against a top-ranked team like Clemson, you could carry that on the rest of the season. Who knows? You're a senior, you're a junior, getting ready to go to the NFL draft. People say, hey, that guy had a great game against some of the top receivers. Let's pick him up. So that film can carry you on for a long time. I think a lot of NC or Tar Heel players are going to be able to go back to the NFL scouts and say, hey, look at my film against Clemson. I did really well. And I think that a lot of those Tar Heel players deserve that, and the defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator for sure deserve some of that praise. It's not all Clemson made mistakes. And Dabo says this as well. We got to give some credit to the Tar Heels as well. And North Carolina did what they needed to do. They prepared the correct way for that Clemson offense and for that Clemson defense. I want to start this off by saying, just because you have an opinion or maybe a wish that the team did something different doesn't mean that you're not grateful for a win. There's a lot of people out there saying, well, you're saying this about Trevor Lawrence. You need to just be grateful for the win, or you don't need to pick on these guys. Nobody's picking on any of the players. I think if you're a fan, you analyze it. That's what's fun about it. It's kind of like a chess match. If you really understand football, you look at the plays and how they're designed. It's kind of, reverse engineering chess, really. I mean, you're kind of looking at that match trying to see, okay, why did Clemson do this here? I wish they would have done that. A lot of those plays that I went back and watched, Al, I said, I wish they would have went across the middle. Well, they did go across the middle with some players, and Trevor Lawrence didn't see them. A couple plays, I said, I wish Trevor would have seen this player. Well, he didn't see that player because Surratt was in his face. So there are a lot of things going on that you may not see the first time around. You might just say, oh, well, they just had a bad game. But UNC did a lot well on that game for sure. And Dabo said, hey, it's better to win or learn from a tough win than from a tough loss, right? And so I'm excited and glad and grateful that Clemson had a tough win. However you call it, however you want to talk about the Clemson offense, we got to call a duck a duck. I mean, the Clemson offense is just not performing the way they should be. It just feels like they're not clicking. If you know anything about this team, the last, was it after Syracuse, every game after that was 20-plus points. Some of those games were 50 and 60 points winning against these teams. In the playoffs, 20-plus points in the playoffs against every team. And so when you know that you had that team, and there wasn't a lot lost, now there was Mitch Hyatt lost, right? There was Hunter Renfrow, and now we're seeing that Hunter Renfrow was more of a key player than we kind of gave him credit. I mean, we gave him a lot of credit. Don't get me wrong, but he was a lot more essential to this offense, just keeping going and keeping drives alive than we really realized. Clemson relied heavily on him. I think a lot more than I even thought. Because they're struggling in those third down situations, trying to find that go-to receiver, somebody who's going to get open in the zone. Right now, Mickey Plyler said this early on. He said that his friend texted him, it's kind of weird that your friend would text you this to make you feel better, but friend texted him and said, hey, it's not math. It's not an art class. It's a math class. It doesn't matter how it looks. It matters the numbers on the scoreboard, right? It matters the wins and losses. And I think if Clemson, like you said, if Clemson does what they need to do throughout the rest of the season, they're going to be right in the thick of things. They're going to be in the right spot. Right now, they control their destiny. But Alabama looks really good. If you look at the rankings, I agree with you. I feel like they might continue to win and continue to drop because you got to look good. It's all about how you look and how you beat these teams. Like Alabama, they gave up 31 points to Ole Miss, but they beat them by 28. Yep. The past 5 games with Alabama, won by 39, won by 52, won by 24, won by 42, and won by 28. I mean, you got to win like that in order to kind of appease the ranking, the AP, the writers, and things like that. It seems like the most important thing to do is beat unranked teams by a lot, and unfortunately, Clemson wasn't able to do that.
Yeah, no, they absolutely weren't, and we all know Swinney's not big on style points, that's for sure. There's some times where he can't help but get them, because our team's just so good. Even our backups are scoring on people. And that happened last year a good bit near the end of the season, against Wake Forest. I know Lin J came in and ran all over the place. And that's kind of the thing that Clemson fans are looking for. We dominated so many people at the end of last year. They thought that was going to continue on into this year. When the fact is, every team's a little bit different. This offensive line's got to gel a little bit together, and they'll get there. I have no doubt. Like I said, I think Clemson's one of the top 4 teams in the country. I don't really care what the poll says. But the style points, the reason style points mattered this year in particular is because we talked about our week schedule. So if it comes down to it, let's say Clemson slips up somewhere, and I mean more than slip up with a 1-point win. I mean slip up with a loss, like a Pittsburgh or Syracuse, they did to us a few years ago. If they have that one loss, it's going to be really difficult for Clemson to make an argument to get into the playoff. So, I mean, because unless there's other teams out there that have one, or, have 2 losses, it's going to be difficult for them to beat out other one-loss teams because our strength of schedule is so bad. So these style points may very well help us get there. Again, I think we're going to take care of business the rest of the year. I don't think we're going to slip up. I think they're going to have them ready to play. I understand we're everybody's Super Bowl. When you were number 1, I understand we're number 2 now. We're still everybody's Super Bowl. We're still the reigning national champions. The target is on our back no matter what. So we're going to get good games from people, even people that probably shouldn't be giving us good games. We kind of spoke about that last week. There's a chance. I think the game could be close in November, which it pains me to say that. But who knows? Hopefully by November we're rocking and rolling, and we just kind of steamroll through Columbia as well. So that's what I'll hope for. But there's always a chance. There's always a game that other players have players too, just like Sweeney says. They're there to play. They get coached up. They practice all the time. It's just going to happen. We're not good enough to just walk out on the field and beat people without preparation, without focus. And it just looked like we were a little unfocused the other night in North Carolina. I have a hard time believing that because the staff does such a good job. But we'll talk about some of the mishaps we had, with the play calls. Or there's a lot of people want to criticize the play calling. I'm one of them for the most part, but in fairness to me, I've criticized the play calling for quite a while for several years. I love to go over the middle. I love the short slant routes. It seems like we never run those. It's funny because when we run a screen, our wide receivers out there blocking. Ross is locked up with some cornerback, and you've got two guys, a linebacker and a safety, just bolting after our one player. And when somebody runs a screen against us, it's like we got one-on-one blocking, and they got open field. So it's frustrating to see us run a screenplay that never really seems to work. I didn't really like the screen game, except for several years ago we ran it with Artavis Scott, and he ran it very well. He was like pretty much guaranteed to get 4 or 5 yards every play, it seemed like. So I was okay with it then, but it hasn't worked in a couple of years, and I wish we'd kind of stay away from it a little bit more, unless you're going to get a little more creative. I don't like the hike, throw it out, kind of a hitch pass to the sideline and make a move. I don't like it because the receiver's not going. They have to stop, start kind of thing. So it's a little frustrating for me. The play calls, I wish were a little different, but Elliott's proven, that he should earn our trust. He's done a good job when the games really matter. He seems to step up to the plate and come up with a really good game plan. Now, it's frustrating when you're playing a team that you should outclass and should be able to beat with any game plan. It's just kind of we out-talent people. And maybe they rely on that a little too much. Maybe they thought a little too much of that going into the game. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is you can have different philosophies and still get it done. So obviously I'm not here to bash any coaches or anything like that. We don't want to say they don't know what they're doing. I don't want any comments saying, how many years have you coached football? We don't need that. They're not above reproach. But we can talk about it, and we can kind of explain our thoughts as to why we like certain things, why we like certain tendencies and certain plays, and why the playbook should be opened up a little bit. I think there's certainly an argument for it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if you go and check out my Twitter account at Clemson Morgan, I took some clips from the game and a lot of third down plays where basically they went 3 deep and ran one person across the middle, and Trevor Lawrence didn't look at his check down and he threw it deep. There were some plays where they just ran everybody deep on third down, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 11, and it's just kind of like, why are you running so many people deep? I understand that it feels like we're just a home run team. We're the big hitting team that just wants to light up the scoreboard on one play. And I feel like we've gotten too much into that tendency. You mentioned something about UNC. Chat is saying that UNC could very well be ranked by the end of the year and could be a good win for us, even though it was a close win. I agree with that. I think that that's kind of what the committee looks at for sure. If you look, like you mentioned, Texas A&M, they struggled against Arkansas, which is supposed to be one of the worst SEC teams. Arkansas lost their starting quarterback in the game, and they were playing well. The Texas A&M, I just hate watching them because they wait till like the last second to hike the ball. They can't run the ball. All they can do is pass it around, and it's just really frustrating to watch Texas A&M and Arkansas play. But I felt like it was obviously a really close game, and now people like Feinbaum are saying, well, Texas A&M is a third tier or fourth tier team now. That's not a good win for Clemson. It was supposed to be a good win for Clemson, but it's not. And people are saying, well, UNC is not a ranked team, and they only won by 1, so that's not a good win for them. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, if you have 12 bad wins, I mean, you still are 12-0. So I'll take 12 bad wins all day. Kirk Herbstreit said that Ohio State should be number 1. I don't feel like Ohio State has any different of a schedule than the ACC. Yeah. I don't know much about Big Ten teams, but really, other than Nebraska, that's the only team they've played. And let me tell you something, just because they're an old school team doesn't mean they're going to be a difficult matchup. I'm talking to you, Michigan. You're not a difficult matchup. Nebraska, it was all hyped on College Game Day. You're not a difficult matchup. Another thing you mentioned was that we need to just be patient as fans and let the season happen. I agree with you on that 110%. Look at it this way. Alabama, in the season, they've got to play LSU and Auburn. Maybe in the championship game, they've got to play Georgia, maybe, right? Georgia's got to play Florida and Auburn, right? Florida and Auburn are going to play this weekend, I believe. Wisconsin's got to play Ohio State and Iowa. Ohio State, maybe Wisconsin has to play Ohio State twice, depending on how their championship works out. Penn State has to play Ohio State and Iowa, and maybe Wisconsin, and even Oklahoma will probably have to play Texas once or twice. I know they play them once. They might have to play them twice. Oklahoma State is kind of towards the end of the year. So there's a lot of games that have to happen. Clemson cannot get complacent, though, because Florida State is up next. They got an off week this week, so we get to rest and kind of reevaluate where the team is and kind of look at that halfway mark and see, okay, is this working the way it's working or not? How can we make adjustments going forward? I believe that we have to trust Clemson and Dabo Swinney and the offensive coordinators to do the right thing and make the right adjustments. I think we need to trust Trevor Lawrence. He is having a little bit of a sophomore slump. He does seem to be only looking at one side of the field. I don't think he stares down receivers as a lot of people are claiming he does. He looks to one side of the field, and there's typically 2 or 3 options there. With his vision, he's able to see those 2 or 3 because they're in sequential line. They're kind of lined up to be a check down there and to be a mid guy there and to be a deep guy there. I do feel like that Trevor, when he sees that one-on-one deep, right now he's like, I'm going for it. And about 80% of the time he's going for it. Now, I feel like he maybe needs to kind of hold back on those going for it deep. But if you look at it, I mean, he's still winning games. It's up to him what he feels comfortable with. It comes to a point where it gets frustrating when Clemson has such a talented offensive team and people are wide open and he's missing them because he wants to go deep. That's where I feel like, I think Trevor is mature enough to kind of say, hey, maybe I shouldn't go deep this time. Maybe I should go to ETN. There was one where Clemson was on 3rd and 6 and had to go 4th and 6, and they didn't get it. They didn't convert the 4th and 6. I believe it was in the 3rd quarter. And they went deep on 3rd and 6, and Travis Etienne was his check down. Nobody around him for miles and miles. If Trevor went deep to Justin Ross and overthrew him, and Ross fell down in the end zone. And so it's things like that where if he just threw it to Etienne, just one look to Etienne, dump it off to him, that's 30 yards right there. So little things like that. I don't think it's like, call emergency on everything. I just think it's little things. Lots of games left to be played, but, people are talking about the ACC being weak. I mean, Wake Forest, undefeated. South Carolina is going to be a difficult game. It's a rivalry game. As much as we like to pick on South Carolina, they are going to come to play, and they're going to be ready, just like everybody else is when they're playing a top team like Clemson. Florida State, like I said, with Hornibrook under center, he has shown that he can beat NC State. He's beaten Louisville. They're feeling good. I watched a lot of film on Florida State last week. I read a lot of articles from their experts and SB Nation and whatnot, and they've got a lot of people saying, hey, this is the turning point for Florida State. This is exactly what we need. I'm not ready to say that yet. I'm not jumping on Florida State train yet, but I think that Clemson definitely can't overlook these teams coming up. I think they're a lot more difficult than people want to give them credit.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I got Nick getting in here and said that, let's not forget App State's no pushover. People want to talk about, oh my gosh, App State beat North Carolina. He's exactly right. App State is a pretty decent team, and they have been for quite a while. So they push a lot of teams. They push a lot of teams. They upset a lot of teams. As a matter of fact, they get to play South Carolina, I'm pretty sure, here during the year. So that's a game the Gamecocks need to watch out for. So the schedule, like we talked about, it's nothing to brag about for sure. But let the season play out. The coaches have given us no reason not to trust them this year. I think the offense will get rolling, but right now there's definitely some things to fix. There's definitely things to critique. And that's what Clemson fans are going to do. There are going to be some upset Clemson fans that kind of overreact. And then there's going to be kind of those calm ones that say, it'll all work itself out. Now, of course, you lose one and they'll start jumping off the ledge. But until then, we'll trust the coaches. The coaches have done a great job. They've given us no reason not to trust them. I mean, goodness gracious, they've won, 2 out of the last 3 national championships. Hopefully we'll get a third this year. But yeah, I say we let the season play out, kind of get in an offensive groove. Once we do, it's going to be scary.
Yeah, let us know what you think in the comments over on Facebook and YouTube. If you want to get in on the conversation, now is your time. Open phone lines at the Buffalo Wild Wings of Greenville, South Carolina, right off of Woodruff Road in the Shops at Green Ridge hotline, 864-772-MORG. That's 6674. Hopefully the only time you ever have to call the morgue. But join us, let us know your thoughts and opinions, emotional outbursts. I know a lot of people called into the Roar already, but hey, give us a shout. Open phone lines right now. We've been up. We'd love to hear you, and we'll get you on YouTube as well. If you notice, the people that called in last week, we got them up as their own little clip on YouTube, so you can get on our YouTube channel with your question as well. We love it. We love it. Al, what you got over on Facebook? How many viewers you got, and what are the comments like?
They're talking about App State. They got a lot of people talking about App State, talking about the schedule in here, saying App State may give the Chickens a game. I think Denise gets in with that comment. I think that's an excellent comment. I think they might give them a game too. We're holding with 15 strong here on Facebook, so not too bad. I like those numbers. I hope we can increase them a little bit by the end of the show, but we're doing good right now.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying, got Bo saying that Nebraska is not a good team. He agrees. Wisconsin seemed to struggle against Northwestern. That's true. Paso saying that we have a great show. Thank you. And Little C saying that win is a win. And we agree with that for sure. Bo's also saying we're going to be fine. Trevor's going to get it together. I think no panic, right? No panic is the best philosophy. All right, everyone. So again, like I said, we have that call-in number. Go give us a call. We're waiting on you. We're going to go on a quick break. Stay with us. When we get back, we'll give you our position-by-position grades from the UNC game. And remember to check us out, The Morgan Thomas Show, on Facebook, YouTube, and The Roar. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al and my co-host, Alan Adams. Open phone lines from the Buffalo Wild Wings of Greenville, South Carolina hotlines, 864-772-MORG. That's 6674. Make sure you jump in. Open phone lines right now. Nobody's waiting, so you can get in and be the first caller of the night. Jump on the line. We'll make sure to get with you while we do the live show. Al, we had a contest over on our Facebook page where you had to guess how many total yards Trevor Lawrence was going to get. And the closest answer would win a $25 gift card from Buffalo Wild Wings and a little free sticker from our show with our show logo. Let us know who won that.
Yeah, my man Mitch got in and won that. He guessed 240. I'm a little disappointed in him. He lowballed our guy a little bit, and it turns out, unfortunately, he was right. I think the total was 251 for Trevor Lawrence, so not too bad. But yeah, Mitch was definitely the closest, and he's going to get himself $25 to Buffalo Wild Wings. Can't go wrong there, and a Morgan Thomas Show sticker. So obviously, he will display that loud and proud on his vehicle for sure.
Yeah.
So Mitch, congratulations, and obviously a brilliant game plan by the brilliant host of the show. Love the contest, and hopefully he can come up with a great one for coming up soon as well to give you out even more money for Buffalo Wild Wings. Anytime you can get money for Buffalo Wild Wings, I consider that a good thing.
Yeah, I like Buffalo Wild Wings. I mean, you got I usually go with something kind of wimpy, like a honey barbecue sauce. I usually like to go at lunch for the fast break. It's like $7.99 or something like that. You get a lot, and you get some season on your fries. I enjoy that. If you go to the Buffalo Wild Wings off of Woodruff Road in Greenville, South Carolina, make sure you let the GM, Daryl, know about it, and ask for Heather. Last time we were there, she said, make sure to give her a shout out. So Heather, you are an amazing waitress, and we hope that you get a lot more business from us. But Al, I wanted to tell you about another thing. I wanted to tell our viewers about another thing. So I know you guys see this show, and we get a lot of compliments on the show. We put a lot of effort and time into the production and the quality, and we pride ourselves on producing high quality, production for this show. And graphics and content and everything we can do. We spend a lot of time on this. It's crazy. But with that, we also like to dress for success. So this year, we've teamed up with Tiger Sports Shop. They're our exclusive apparel provider for the Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al. We are currently wearing some of their items from their exclusive collection right now. So this is one of their golf polos. It's really thin and lightweight, kind of moisture wicking. It's a little lavender color. I don't know. It looks a little gray, I think, on the camera with the lights, but it's kind of a light purple with a tiger paw over here and some nice white stripes. Everybody kind of gives me compliments. I actually saw Trevor Lawrence's dad wearing this shirt, I believe, at the UNC game. I believe he was wearing this shirt. So I'm kind of proud of that. I'm wearing the same shirt that Trevor Lawrence's dad wore. But, you can check that out over at the Tiger Sports Shop. They have a lot of nice clothes there, and they've hooked us up and are our exclusive provider. Al, what do you got?
I have an amazing dress shirt. It's a button down. It's got it's the Tiger. It's actually the Tiger Sports Shop brand that they've kind of started themselves. It's got a little Clemson. It's got a tiger here with Clemson underneath. If you can see it on the pocket right here, it's an orange and purple, white gingham kind of type shirt, plaid looking design. It's beautiful. It's an excellent shirt, excellent fit. Obviously, you can notice the hat. Everybody knows I wear the hat. I love the hat. This is a legacy hat, simple legacy hat with a paw and an outline over there. It's my favorite hat. I've been wearing it for years. So Legacy is a great hat. They also have another, amazing line of hats. They have the 47 hats. They have fitted hats. They have everything there. So anytime you want to get your gear, check out Tiger Sports Shop. One at either location. They do awesome stuff. Have great quality products for sure.
Can you lift up just a little bit to show us the little tiger? Just a little bit more. You got there you go. Okay, yeah. Now we can see it. Yeah. So you see that little tiger? Is there a Clemson underneath it too, or is it just the
Clemson's written underneath it? Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so check out that. It's a nice button up. I hope to get that next. Hopefully that'll be my next purchase. You can stop by one of their two stores over in Clemson. That's 364 College Avenue. I believe that's downtown, right, Al? And then you've got 1102 Tiger Boulevard. It's right off the Highway 123. You keep going and you get into Clemson. You'll see it there on the left. But stop by, let Julie, the owner, or Sean, the general manager, know that you heard about them from the Morgan Thomas Show, or check them out on their website. If you're one of those fans that's out there in another state and can't stop by Clemson every single week, go check them out. It's tigersports.com. Man, they've been in business for a long time, opened by a Clemson coach, Coach Ibrahim, and then carried on his legacy, and just now through Julie and through Sean, who was a national championship goalie and coach there. So really cool Clemson ties there, and we love to get their support, and we appreciate the support that they give us. Al.
Yeah, man.
All right, here's another big thing for us. This is segment number 2.
Sure.
We got to get into this. So looking at the Clemson position grade. So we go position by position, and we're going to talk about each position and what we give their grades on. So we're grading them just like they do in school, based on their performance from that specific game. Not overall in the season, but just from the UNC game. I'm going to start us off with the quarterback. I know I'm going to get some backlash here, but I'm going to give Trevor Lawrence a C for his performance against the Tar Heels. Looking down, his first option a lot of times, looking only on one side of the field, missing some wide open players, throwing deep a lot. Now, I can blame, the play calling too. So I think it's 50-50. It's not all Trevor's fault. And I hate to beat him up because I love him. I mean, let me tell you, we're doing this constructive feedback here, right? But throwing to the sideline a lot. I did some metrics on that, some analytics on the plays that were ran. He threw to the sideline a lot. If he saw one-on-one coverage, he was throwing to the sideline. Now, let me tell you, he had a lot of good success to the left of the sideline. And he threw to the left sideline to T. Higgins a bunch, and it was successful there. So I can't blame him in a sense that, when it did work, that was 30 yards or 15 yards. But he had to make a lot of attempts there. And there were a lot of deep balls that were where they really just needed to convert first down, and they didn't get them because he was just throwing deep. And so, the list kind of can get long because we can be too critical, but I don't want to give him be too critical. I want to give him an A in something else. Can I give him an A in something else?
Sure, go for it. You're the host.
So I want to give him an A in the run game. I mean, if it wasn't for Trevor Lawrence's run game, the longest run for the team was 16 yards. He had 4.1 yards per carry. If it wasn't for Trevor's crucial run game in crucial spots during the game, Clemson might not have came out with a win. I believe he had a rushing score, as well. So Trevor did well in the running game. I want to see. Do I want to see more of that? Well, there was one time he got tackled and his feet were underneath him and bent backwards. I don't want to see more of that. I want to see, but I do want to see him be mobile for sure. What did you give him?
I gave him a B-. I thought he played a pretty decent game under pretty consistent pressure all night. They were throwing some crazy blitzes and a lot of stunts at the offensive line there. And, he wasn't getting a lot of help from our offensive line. He wasn't getting a lot of help from ETN blocking, I didn't think. Had some overthrows on receivers. Like you said, he's looking at one side of the field a lot. You can question the play calling as well. It's funny you mentioned about, he always wanted to go deep and on 3rd and 6 or something like that. I remember we got into several 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 situations. I'm like, just please remember that we only need 5 or 6 yards, and it seemed like every time they would throw deep, and it just bothered the heck out of me. But, we're just all waiting to see the superhuman Trevor that we saw last year. That's what we're waiting on. It's going to happen. You just got to be patient. Unfortunately, this is, we talk about instant gratification world. People want it. People want it now. They saw it in the Alabama game. They're wondering where it is. It'll be here. Relax. But for now, B-. Not too bad. We'll move on to the next game.
This won't go on the radio. But if you're one of those people saying that we would be better off with Chase Bryce, I just want you to just really look at yourself in the mirror right now. I know Chase Bryce is great, and I have all kinds of confidence in him, but Trevor Lawrence is a once-in-a-generation quarterback. He is the same quarterback that won the national championship, and he's the same quarterback that went like 10 games with 20-plus points over each team. So let's not pull the plug on Trevor Lawrence, all right? That is ridiculous talk. That's a little bit too much of a panic there. And I digress. All right, so running back, I'm giving Travis Etienne a C as well, so 2 C's for me. Normally I'm the lenient grader here, but I started to push a little bit further on test my grading skills a little bit more. Etienne could not run to the right. Now, I don't think it was his fault. We'll talk about that in 3 positions from now. I don't think it was his fault, but he did really well running to the left. If you look at it, most of his yards came from running to the left-hand side of the field, whether it was the A gap to the left or the B gap or even off tackle. He did pretty well there. Pass protection, there were a couple of pass protection times where you have to give a lot of credit to the Tar Heels for sure for mixing up the blitzes. It was almost like the Tar Heels pulled a Brent Venables on Clemson. It was kind of crazy. They were blitzing from all over the place, and they were overloading one side of the offensive line and tricking the running back, and Travis Etienne was kind of looking around, kind of lost on a couple of plays. He was late on a couple of blocks. I wouldn't say I didn't see him miss one completely, but he was late on a couple of blocks. One block that he did get, man, he got laid out for it. So he had a tough time blocking. Again, Lynn J. Dixon. I mean, did he even play? Yeah, he had 4 carries. Mm-hmm. He had 5 yards per carry, Al.
Yeah.
But then only 4 carries? What's the
Yeah.
deal with that? I mean, did you punish him for that penalty that he got early in the game? I mean, for coming on the field when he shouldn't? You can't beat the guy up for just one penalty. I mean, gosh, look at what the offensive line did. Oh, wait, I'm getting a little too far ahead of myself. But Lynn-J Dixon, only 4 carries. As good as he's been against Texas A&M, and you only give him 4 carries, that's a head scratcher for me. Again, not Lynn-J Dixon's fault, but it brings that score down for me for the running backs to a C.
Yeah, I gave the running backs a C plus. That's kind of been a point of interest this year. People think they're not going to ETN enough or not, using Lynn-J Dixon as well. And I would have to agree. They had good yards per carry in this game for the most part. So I'm not really sure why they weren't used more, especially with the passing struggles we kind of had. He did all right running the football. His pass blocking, like you said, left a lot to be desired. It looks to me like even though it wasn't all his fault, it looks like the offensive line was missing some assignments, and linebackers were running free right at Travis Etienne. That's when they've got a 5-7 yard head start, that's tough to stop. But he looks like he's getting a little flat-footed in his blocking, kind of waiting for them to hit him instead of initiating contact. I wish he'd kind of be a little more aggressive and kind of go after them. If he wants to chip them, that's fine, but he's going to have to initiate the contact somehow, or he's just going to get bowled over, which happened at least once, if not 2 or 3 times in that game against UNC. So I gave the running back a C+.
Bo over on YouTube is reminding me that Travis's fumble kind of slowed things down for the offense and killed momentum as well. I didn't write that down, but I remember that. And Travis's fumble, I mean, that was a 7-yard gain, and he fumbled it. And yeah, it was definitely a drive killer and momentum killer for sure. Yeah. Over to the wide receivers, I think a lot of people are going to expect me to beat them up. I think that they did pretty well. They ran the routes that they were supposed to. They didn't seem to be confused. I noticed a couple of plays when looking back at it that Justin Ross was throwing his hands up and frustrated because he would get open, and by the time he would get open, he would get sacked. It's not his fault that he's having to run 15 yards and Trevor's getting blitzed faster than he can get to get open in his route. I mean, if you're running long routes like that, Trevor needs more time.
Yeah.
If he doesn't have the time, you've got to stop running long routes like that. It's not Justin Ross's fault. If you look at it, Higgins, 21.5 yards per play or per catch. Ross, 15.7 yards per catch. I mean, those are great numbers for wide receivers. They just were very frustrated all game. Amari Rodgers, had some difficulty. The middle of the field, again, there were some plays it was completely ignored because of the play. There were some plays it was completely ignored because Trevor saw that one-on-one deep and he just went for it. And believe me, I want to see Trevor throw up great deep balls for sure. Those are like the home runs in baseball, right? But sometimes, like you said, you only need 5 yards. Right. So I'm not going to beat up the wide receivers in this case. I'm giving the wide receivers a B.
Yeah, I gave him a B+. Thank goodness for T. Higgins. He seems to be, there to play every week. He's getting 100+ yards every week, making some big plays. Obviously had a big touchdown here as well. Game-winning touchdown, it turns out to be. The other wide receivers did a good job for the most part. Like you said, they're running the routes they're supposed to run, and a lot of them were open. It's just the fact that we couldn't get them the ball before we were sacked or, running for our lives or something like that. We did have a huge play deflated, after Cornell Powell kind of tripped in the open field. I think that one was going for a huge play, so that was kind of frustrating. I know Cornell was frustrated with himself, so we won't beat him up too bad over that. But I gave the wide receivers a B+ for the game.
Oh, man, that linebacker was so slow. Powell was going to get so many yards on that, and he tripped over his own 2 feet, man. Oh, my goodness. So crazy. For tight ends, moving to them, Chalk was really the only guy on the field. It seems like Jalen Lay has, kind of disappeared. I don't know if he's going to be redshirted or not, but he was played a lot more earlier.
Yeah.
Now you really don't see him. Chalk is the only guy, and they've actually started kind of let Chalk loose and let him go run routes more than he did at the beginning of the season. He had 2 catches for 16 yards, which is respectable. Sure. He got a couple of first downs, so I was proud of him for that. There were times where, he needed to be blocking, and he wasn't because he was running deep, and Clemson, was just one guy short blocking. And so it's things like that really hurt Clemson, I believe. There was a play that I was telling you about, 3rd and 6, where we were on their side of the field. Trevor Lawrence went for it deep to Justin Ross, overthrew him in the end zone. It could have been a touchdown if it was thrown correctly. But JC Chalk was also wide open. He had gotten past those two linebackers, so he's proving to be a little bit quicker. But, he did have a costly false start penalty. That left-hand side of that offensive line, when seemed to be false starting all day.
Yeah.
It was just, that was another drive killer. You want to talk about fumbles or drive killers? False starting on first down or second down or third down just drives you nuts, right? But I'm giving JC Chalk, I'm giving him a B. I felt like overall he did what was expected. I can't complain about really that one I believe was a non-pass interference call, where he was the linebacker wasn't looking back or anything. Those textbook rules where they say they got to look back for the ball, they got to play the ball. That guy was like pushing him and he fell down. Nobody called anything. I feel like it was a little bit on JC Chalk in that sense, because he got up and just walked back. That's something that I would do, kind of like the military tells you, just get up and shake it off, right? Go live another day. Sometimes you got to turn around and say, hey, ref, did you see that? I just got pushed over. Like, come on, right? You got to kind of give them a little bit to let them wake up and say, hey, we're still playing the same game, right? So I give the tight ends, or at least the tight end, a B.
Yeah, you're right. He's kind of the only one you really saw out there the other day. I gave him a B as well. He had a couple catches. He had a couple more targets, I believe. I think they tried to go deep to him one time. Maybe it's the one you're talking about, where the non-pass interference call. I like that our offensive coordinators are kind of starting to, get the tight end involved. I've always been a huge proponent of the tight end. I think they're one of the most valuable weapons on the field if you're able to use them right. Green Bay, I get that from Green Bay. Green Bay used to use them all the time way back in the day. So it's such a hard weapon. If they fake a block, they can get open in a heartbeat. And they're obviously a big body to try to bring down. So I'm a huge proponent of using the tight end. And I'm glad Clemson's starting to do that. They look like they're starting to trust Chalk a little more than they did at the beginning of the year. So hopefully that continues as the season goes on, and he can make even more big plays. But yeah, I gave him a B as well.
Over to the offensive line, I'm giving them a C. Giving up a sack, 3 tackles for loss, 7 quarterback hurries. Ooh, not good. Obviously, as I said before, that side, Akram and Cervenka couldn't run the ball over there to the right side. Had to run to the left side, had to roll out to the left side. It was pretty difficult doing anything running-wise or ground game-wise on the right side of the field. Then you got like John Simpson and Jackson Carman doing false starts all the time. And when JC Chalk was blocking, we'll make him a blocker at that point. He got a false start. I mean, it was just really frustrating for the offensive line. Not a good game. Then you have John Simpson coming out after the game a day later and saying, well, if we would have just ran the ball more. I believe when I looked at the box score, they ran more than they passed in that game, and they didn't get anything going. Now, I will give John Simpson credit. Travis Etienne had more success on his side of the ball. So I will say that running to the left-hand side seemed to be something that they should have just kept going to, and for whatever reason kept trying to go to the right side that just wasn't working. But overall, as a unit as a whole, not a good night for Trevor. I mean, like I said, he was hurried almost all the time. It was sad for me to go from watching that Clemson game, Al, to then Sunday watching Deshaun Watson's offensive line. Basically, if you think you got a bad offensive line, just go watch the Texans for 10 minutes. I mean, Deshaun Watson has to run around and for his life almost every single play. I don't know how the guy does it, man. I pray for him every single night that he stays healthy. Yeah. But back to Clemson, Clemson as a whole seems to not be going to the right, and I think there's something going on there. I think we got to address that. The left-hand side, again, seems to be more successful, but we need to be more balanced on that so that Trevor doesn't have to always roll out to the left and contort his body, So that's why I gave him a C.
I actually gave him a D. This was not a good performance for offensive line. It wasn't even a decent performance, if you ask me, for all the reasons you talked about, Trevor Lawrence, a sack and getting hurried all the time. I mean, the 6 false starts, I believe is what we had. That's insane. That is very uncharacteristic for a Clemson team for sure. There were linebackers and defensive linemen running untouched to Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence. It was just a really difficult day. All things considered. John Simpson, talks about we should run the ball more. Well, yeah, but you're going to have to talk to your line and get them to quit false starting. 3rd and 6 is not a running down. It seemed to be what we were in a lot, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, that kind of thing. Yeah, you don't run in those downs. Sorry, you pass. So if you want to run more, play a little more discipline, and we will. And I think they'll get that fixed. I don't think they're gonna do that. I don't expect that again for the rest of the year, to be honest with you.
Ooh, harsh words from Al, but real words, real words. We're not trying to beat them down by any means. So
No, absolutely not.
I hope when you're watching this, you're not thinking, man, these guys are just beating them up. I know social media can be real touchy with this stuff. We're just analyzing the game. We're just giving our thoughts. There were good things. We talked about good things. We talked about bad things, but we want to be honest and take our orange glasses off and say, hey, these are some things that we see that we hope, we believe, we trust that the coaching staff will be. We're saying these things believing that the coaching staff will address it. This coaching staff, to win as many games as they've had over a decade, you have to trust them. So just because we're analyzing doesn't mean we don't trust, okay? So let's move over to the defense. The defensive line, I was, iffy on what they did, but they had a lot of good stops, okay? Defensive line, 3 sacks, 3.5 tackles for loss. Tyler Davis is still doing really well, being a true freshman in the middle. Jordan Williams came up with a couple of good stops. Justin Foster, Xavier Thomas at the end of the game for sure. They ran the ball really successful against Clemson. I told you, Al, that Williams and Carter were going to be successful because Clemson in a 3-3-5 scheme, 2 good running backs, it's going to be difficult in that scheme. That's more of you got 5 DBs out there. Yeah. So that's more of a passing or a coverage type, scheme. And so running the ball against them, should be easier because you only have 3 down linemen there. But they did run the ball pretty successful. Man, when it was late in the game and Williams came and squirted out for like 25 yards to the 1-yard line, and that gave them the chance to score, man, did your heart just sink there when that happened? I mean, you're like, okay, these guys are going to stop him. Oh, no, there he squirts out for 20 yards. I'm like, oh, no. And now he's on the 1-yard line, and that's when I felt like, okay, Mac Brown is going to go for 2 here. He's going to go for all, But when the game was on the line in the red zone, hey, they stopped him. I didn't give them an A because at the end of the game, they stopped them on 4th down earlier in the game, but then they had 2 4th down conversions later in the game. And I was disappointed in that a little bit with the defensive line. But, again, I will say that I think that the matchup was good in Tar Heels' favor, but I'm going to give the defensive line a B.
I actually gave the defensive line a C. Okay, I know you were teetering on B or A, and I'm going to give them a C, and I'll tell you why. I didn't think they got anywhere near the penetration they should have got for a really, really young offensive line against North Carolina. North Carolina, I think we're starting, 2 freshmen and 3 sophomores, something like that. They had a couple injuries, to key players on their offensive line. I thought the Brent Venables defense was going to absolutely ravage these guys, and they just didn't. They let UNC capitalize on a lot of 3rd down plays to sustain drives and kind of keep the defense out there and tired. I was just kind of disappointed. Obviously, they flashed the potential that they've showed you all season long, but for the most part, I really thought they were going to dominate this game, and they just didn't. So I gave them a C.
Now I'll tell you, just to say this, I did not teeter between a B and an A. If I said that, I apologize. I teeter between a B and a C. I wasn't sure if they were kind of an average team or they did. I felt like because of those big time stops, I wanted to give them a little more than a C. That's where I was coming from with that. I did not think they were an A. Like you said, I mean, did they – I know that I think they did get a couple of sacks. I think they got 3 sacks overall, maybe 2 or 3 sacks. But they definitely didn't hurry him as much as I would like you said. Right. For the linebackers, I gave when you have Isaiah Simmons – it's kind of like you get an automatic B at least. Right. There's nothing lower than a B when you have Isaiah Simmons. He was again all over the place. 10 tackles, led the team, 1 sack, 2.5 for a loss, 1 pass deflection. The only linebacker that outplayed Isaiah Simmons was actually on the other team in Surratt, which is a former quarterback, right? I figured that out. Like former quarterback, really. But I felt like that James Skalski again didn't have a terrible performance. He was in there on that 4th down stop. Simmons was in there on a 4th down stop. They were all in there on that crazy option 2-point conversion that popped out of his arm and fell into the other guy's hands. Yeah. And did you notice like the Tar Heel bench jumped up because they thought, okay, now all he has to do is jump in, and then like Xavier Thomas's momentum just killed him, and Skalski killed him too. So, I give the linebackers a B. Like I said, I don't think you really can go lower than a B when you have Isaiah Simmons.
I have the exact same reason. I gave him a B as well because of Isaiah Simmons. I thought Skalski played okay. He didn't play a really bad game. I think a lot of people remember Skowski getting held on their kind of stop and go touchdown on AJ Terrell at the very beginning. He was kind of getting held coming off the edge and was right by Sam Howell. Probably could have made the play, but no flag, no big deal. It happens. They're not going to get called every time. But Chad Smith, I didn't think played a great game. I will talk about him a little bit more later. But when you have Isaiah Simmons, you can't get less than a B, so I gave him a B.
Over to the cornerbacks, man, they started the game off bad and had a terrible game, I feel like, compared. Now, we split the cornerbacks and the safeties, so just put that in perspective there. But AJ Terrell, man, burnt on the first or second play of the game on a double move. Not only was it a double move, Al, but the wide receiver, I believe it was Brown, waved his hand in the air to the quarterback before the play to say, "Hey, I'm open. I'm going to be open." You're going to be open before the play even starts. Ooh, ouch. That is no good. I know it wasn't the first play or second play of the game. I think it was further on. But either way, because they were further down the field, I know for sure. But, man, to wave your hand like that against A.J. Terrell, that's one of those films that I was talking about earlier that you're going to take to the NFL and say, hey, look what I can do. But that double move was AJ, you just don't do that, right? I think it was DK or Mario fell down just a nasty, ridiculous looking slip. And some people were complaining about the turf being so hot and being kind of more slippery. Maybe that was the case, but man, whoever that was, I think it was DK, took a huge slip, a dive on the ground, allowing for Michael Carter to get a huge run and then set up a touchdown there. AJ let his man go and opened up for, I think it was Corrales to get a touchdown. He was guarding Corrales. Corrales went across the middle. AJ, everybody was playing man on the other side of the field. Everybody was playing man. AJ was not. And then it caused Muse and Simmons to get confused to who to guard. They ended up guarding the same player, and Corrales got open and scored a touchdown. And so I don't know who to blame that on, but it looked like everybody else was playing man, so I got to say that AJ kind of let his guy go. I'm not really sure whose fault it was, but the cornerbacks for sure didn't really, to be such an elite cornerback group, we love them. They're so great. They rarely ever throw to them. To then turn around and do those kind of things and have those kind of big play mistakes, I can't give you a good grade. I got to give you a C.
I actually gave them a B minus. They're going to like me a little better than you this week, which is just fine with me actually, because I'm usually the bad guy. But no, I thought they played okay. Like you said, the problem is you're going to have that one stick in your mind. Okay, the AJ Terrell got beat on the double move, and that's fine. That happens. As a matter of fact, it's happened before this year. I don't know necessarily with AJ Terrell, but it's happened this year, and those balls have been overthrown. We've been really lucky. Sam Howell hit him in stride, and it was a touchdown. Plain and simple. It's one play. It happens a lot, especially on double moves. That's especially with an aggressive defense like we are. You're susceptible to those kind of things. And you know what? AJ Terrell is a great player. He will come back even stronger from this, so I'm not even worried about it at all. But I gave him a B minus.
Okay. I mean, give him a B minus. B minus basically a C in my book. Okay. But you just don't want to give him a C. I get it.
That's right.
Going over to the safeties, again, Nolan Turner all over the place. Man, Nolan Turner is like the Hunter Renfrow for defense. He's doing so great. He was in on that fourth down stop that Clemson got. Kayvon Wallace was in on a bunch of tackles. Tanner Muse didn't help on the AJ double move. If you notice, if you go back and look at that double move, what we were talking about, Tanner Muse stood still. He didn't back up to help AJ. I don't know if that's what the play was called, but, I guess you have confidence in AJ just to play man and just leave Tanner Muse kind of playing in the middle of kind of around the first down marker. But Muse just let him go and play one-on-one, and they exploited it right there. I don't know if that was the call. Like I said, we're not we don't know the playbook. We don't know what was called. We're just trying to analyze what we saw. It's the same thing you guys saw. But, there was the mix-up, like I said, on the touchdown play. We don't know who was supposed to take it over. But then Nolan Turner was in on the two-point conversion. He stayed with that pitch guy to the outside. I was really proud of him there to hold that off and stop the two-point conversion or help stop the two-point conversion because there's 4 guys involved in that. But I give the safeties a B.
Yeah, I actually gave him a B as well. Muse almost single-handedly got this group a failing grade because he went up and tried to injure Isaiah Simmons on a botched interception. All right. That is just my heart sank. I saw Isaiah Simmons on the ground. This cannot be good. This cannot be good. Of all the players in the world, UNC went deep. I don't know if you remember this player or not. UNC went deep, and Muse kind of came over the top. They both had the angle on the ball. They kind of ran into each other, and it was just ugly. It looked bad. I don't know if that's the injury that took Muse out of the game. Obviously, Muse was in the second half in street clothes, from what I remember. But I didn't see too much negative about the safeties for the most part in the game, so I gave them a B for this.
Yeah, I didn't. I completely missed that Muse was in street clothes. I don't know how I missed that, but I do remember when they collided, and you're like, oh no, come on, this is like Inciarte colliding with Markakis. You don't want that. No. You can't have that. We got to have both those players healthy. Because we need their bats, we need their skill and their ability. Same thing for those two guys playing out there in kind of center field, just knocking each other over. It's not what you want to see. I know they both have to go for the ball. They can't anticipate what's going to happen. Sometimes that's just football for sure.
That's right.
And here's the last thing that we added in, because people were like revolting that we didn't talk about special teams. But with Joe Ngata, 2 good kickoff returns, over 30 yards each. I enjoyed watching him. I think, that was good that he brought the ball out. BT Potter, he did miss a field goal, kind of shanked it. But Spires had a 54-yard punt, Al. A lot of what happened in that game was because both punters were doing really well. But we got to be very thankful for Spires being very consistent this year. And, man, knocking a 54-yarder, which his average was like 38 yards last year. Yep. So I'm very proud of Spires and what he's done to kind of solidify his starting position there. With Joe Ngata, give me a minus a BT Potter miss, but with Joe Ngata and Spires doing well, I give him a B.
I actually gave him a B as well. I liked a couple returns from Ngata. I haven't been super impressed from what I've seen from him so far this year. I think he gets started kind of slow. He's more of a gliding type of runner than, he is a quick guy. But he's got speed to him for sure. And he's actually showed a couple of pretty good moves. And, he had a couple of great returns in the UNC game. So I was really proud of him there. Like you said, Spires is never going to blow you away with his punting average. That's for sure. But all we need is consistency. We don't need somebody to punt 60 yards every time. You stay over 40, you kind of stay in our good graces for sure. And I think he's done that for the most part. Like you said, he had a pretty good game. Really disappointed in the missed field goal by BT Potter. Obviously, that would have saved a lot of nerves for some Tiger fans had he made that, because the game wouldn't have been so close at the end. But yeah, that's a tough miss. I mean, it was a relatively short field goal. I think it was about 40 yards, something like that. It's something that he should definitely make, and it's something we're going to need as a weapon going forward. But, not a bad effort overall, pretty good. Hopefully he gets that fixed. I gave him a B.
All right, so that finishes up our position grades for the Tar Heel game for the Tigers there. Let us know what your comments or suggestions are for our position grades there, what you thought each position grade was. We'd love to hear from you over on Facebook or YouTube. But before we finish up, we've got helmet stickers. So helmet stickers are basically kind of like the exceptional play or exceptional performance from really anything during that game. And I'm going to give my helmet sticker to T. Higgins. Sweet T, it was third and Sweet T. He did great on third down a lot during the game. And then I'm going to give another helmet sticker, my second helmet sticker, over to Nolan Turner. 6 tackles, 1 for loss, and a key fourth down stop, a key 2-point version can stop. So I'm giving those 2 stickers to Higgins and Turner. Who you got?
I actually am going to match you a T. Higgins on the offense. I don't really know who else you can give it to. There weren't a lot of big stats to go around on this one, but Higgins, another monster game from, wide receiver. Excellent job. The big touchdown as well. So he's been the choice for most games this year. I mean, because he's been consistent. That's what we want. So I gave him a helmet sticker. On defense, I actually gave a helmet sticker to Chad Smith. Let me be clear. Chad Smith did not really play a great game against UNC. He looked a little bit lost to me on a lot of plays. He was a little bit slow to react. But, while the fans were celebrating what appeared to be a big stop on a 2-point conversion with Thomas and Nolan Turner bearing down on the guy, like you talked about, the play wasn't really over. Howell just kind of happened to fumble or toss the ball back to another Tar Heel who was just kind of waiting, and he could have easily gotten into the end zone. He had a relatively clear path, and I'm pretty sure it was Chad Smith who came in and busted that up because he played through the whistle. That right there, we're talking about a whole different mood here, possibly, if Chad Smith's not paying attention on that play. So I want to give him a shout out for that. I gave him a little bit of hard time about the game so far, so obviously he impressed me with that play. He stepped up when it mattered, so I'm gonna give him my helmet sticker for that.
I like that. He's been on the team for quite some time, so it's nice to see him be successful this year. We also have something that we give out, and I brought this tonight, Al. It is my Clemson $2 bill. It's stamped from $2. Now, this is special to me because I got this when I graduated from Clemson. So I'm going to hang on to this one for a while. I'm not going to give this one away, but it's our Clemson $2 bill. As you know, we give these away when we go to away games, right? And we're going to give ours to the away team best player, and I'm giving it to Chaz Surratt. 7 tackles, 1 sack, 2 for a loss, 2 pass deflections, 3 hurries. What more can you ask for from somebody not named Isaiah Simmons? I mean, man, that's amazing.
Yeah, I actually gave mine to Michael Carter. I kind of figured that's who you would choose, so I chose Michael Carter. 16 carries, 99 yards, 62.2 yards per carry. That's a pretty good yards per carry, especially against the Clemson defense. He split carries with Javonte Williams. I think they ran the ball relatively effectively against Clemson, much to my chagrin. But, I don't want to see that again the rest of the year, but I thought he played a solid game. So it was splitting carries. 99 yards is pretty solid, especially against this defense. So I'm going to give it to Michael Carter.
All right, everyone. Well, we have to take a quick break again. Stay with us. When we get back, we'll give you our Week 6 picks against the spread. And remember to check us out, The Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al, on Facebook, YouTube, and the Roar Radio. You can listen to us there every Thursday night at 8 p.m. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al and my co-host, Alan Adams, and I'm your host and producer, Morgan Thomas. Our phone lines are done. We didn't have any calls for the first 2 segments, and so what happens is after no calls for a little while, I think about an hour, it cuts us off. So if you want to get in on phone lines, we do have phone lines for you. So let us know or jump in and give the call. You see it up there, but right now it's closed. So sorry, I apologize for that, but we didn't have any calls. So we see a lot of stuff going on in chat. We have 17 over on YouTube right now, so we appreciate you watching over on YouTube. We got 1 segment to go. What you got over on Facebook, Al?
We're rolling with 17 on Facebook as well. I just saw a Gamecock fan get in, a known Gamecock fan, an admitted Gamecock fan get in. So I'm glad she's watching with us tonight. I hope she sticks with us for a little while.
Ooh, okay. Well, hey, we welcome any and all Gamecock fans. We know that you are just slowly taking that garnet shirt off and you just kind of starting to put on that orange shirt. So we know we'll take you. We'll accept you. Season tickets are closed right now, but, you can get in next year. We're going to jump in and go to our picks against the spread. Al, I didn't have this up, but I got, everybody asks about this. This is when Marty comes on. All right, this is Marty's segment, so I'm needing some Marty time on the show. But let me give you an update of where we're at on our Morgan Thomas Show Pick'em. We have it over on Yahoo. It's Picks Against the Spread. ACC teams and top 25 teams are the only ones we pick from. Alan right now 93-45. Another golf clap for Al. Great job, Al. 93-45. I had a better week. I actually had more wins than you this week. Or this last week, I got 84-54, so I'm not doing too bad. We're both over 60%. Yep. So, hey, maybe we know what we're talking about. No, I don't know. I'm not going to say I know what I'm talking about, but we try, right? We try to do our picks and give you the best picks possible. Picks against the spread. It's weird because, this is it. This is the end of the segment because there's no Clemson preview this week. The Tigers have an off week to rest up and, as we talked about, get those kinks out from what we talked about earlier. They'll host the Florida State Seminoles on October 12th, so excited for that. But definitely not a game you need to look past because the Seminoles are coming off some games where they're very confident now. They feel like they have a quarterback that's consistent, and they're going to be a team. They have a good running back, Cam Akers, just like we talked about with the Tar Heels. having two good running backs, Cam Akers could do some damage to the 3-3-5 defense. So looking to see what Clemson can do there against Florida State. Here are our picks against the spread. If you don't know, we do only ACC games, and we do top 25 versus top 25. Some of the teams are on off week. Some of the teams are playing each other. We're going to start in the ACC. Allen, Boston College at Louisville. And again, these spreads I wrote down from Thursday night, so they might have updated just to let you know. But okay. Boston College at Louisville. Louisville is giving 4.5.
4.5. Wow. I looked there earlier today. It was 6.5. So I'm not really sure if that's the case anymore. So do we want to go 4.5 or we want to go 6.5?
Well, let me take a look at the Yahoo and just see, because like I said, I do these late night on Tuesday night just so that I'm ready for the show. Where are we at? So Louisville, Boston College, I got them 6.5 right now. So what you got?
6.5. All right. Well, it's funny. I made you go through that, and I really don't. It really doesn't even matter.
Whoa. Allen,
you deserved it. You deserved every bit of it, as you always do. We have two bad ACC teams facing off. Okay, in this one, Boston College actually does a pretty good job covering the spread for me. I considered taking them with this one, but I just have a feeling. I'm not sure why I'm taking the home team, Louisville, to cover the 6.5. Maybe it's because I thought I had chosen Boston College, so I had you look at it. I've got Louisville here, so I'm taking them minus 6.5. I don't really know why, because I don't like Louisville. I don't like Boston College, but Boston College seems to cover. I'm going against it. It's just a feeling. Deal with it.
I don't know what to say right now, Al. You just made me do all that. I had to make like 3 clicks to get to that updated spread, and my finger hurts now from having to click that many clicks. It didn't make any difference for you. Doesn't make any difference for me. Like I said, I look at these spreads on Tuesday night because that's when I have time to prepare for the show. So I apologize. That's why I do the disclaimer, Allen. But again, Boston College is a terrible defense. I mean, 438 yards per game given up. That's horrible, man. That is just garbage. But they do have a more reliable quarterback, in my opinion. Louisville doesn't really know what they're doing with their quarterback. They do have a more reliable running back, I feel like. I usually go with the team that has the better running back and quarterback. With teams that are so even, though, on offense, it's kind of hard, especially with the home team. This is a close game. I think Vegas knows what they're talking about here. Since it's a close game, I think it's going to be a close game. I'm going to say give me Boston College and the points on that one. I'm going with the next one, Virginia Tech at Miami. This is an interesting one. The two, expansion teams. Doesn't seem like they're expansion teams anymore, right? But Virginia Tech is at Miami. Let me get you the updated. It looks like it's still at minus. Miami is giving minus 13.5.
Yeah, I said it last week. I'll say it again. Betting against the Hokies seems to be doing pretty well for me. So right now I'm going to take Miami minus 13.5, plain and simple.
I didn't realize that, but yeah, you have really betted against them every single week. It's hard to pick Miami, though. I mean, they just come out of Central Michigan winning by 5, 17-12. What kind of score is that?
I know.
Virginia Tech got beat up by Duke, which we called. We knew. A lot of experts didn't call that, but we called Duke to win that game, and they won very handedly. The Hurricanes only allow 59.8 rushing yards per game right now, which is great. I think they're really good at keeping the score low too, but they had one big game, and then the rest were kind of low-scoring games, so score, not really leaning on that stat too much. But I will take Miami in this case, minus the 13.5. I think Miami's going to win 3 in a row after losing the first 2. I think they're going to win 3 in a row and kind of start in the positive direction, right? A game that Clemson just played, our team that Clemson just played against, North Carolina at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech still rebuilding and struggling a lot. UNC, as last look, is giving 10 points to Georgia Tech. What you got?
Well, it's hard for me to bet on North Carolina after the way the Tar Heels played our Tigers within a point, this past weekend. A lot of people might think they suffer kind of a hangover from a tough loss, but I'm going to say it gives them like a moral victory momentum. All right, and they take down the Jackets by 2 touchdowns, so I'm going to take North Carolina and the 10 points, minus the 10 points.
Okay, I like that. Georgia Tech has got a difficult time scoring. They only scored 2 points against Temple.
Yeah.
I mean, is this baseball? Again, another weird score there. Jeff Collins went back to his former school and just got blanked for sure. North Carolina seems to have found a passion for winning, and momentum is on their side for sure coming off that game. I think a lot of people talked about how Mac Brown just showed trust in his team, and I agree with him. I mean, the fact that he went for it on 2, yeah, they didn't win it, and it was a heartbreaking loss at that sense, but he can go back and say, hey, I trusted you guys. I had faith in you guys. You hung with them, and we're going to keep carrying that on for the rest of the season. You may not be the number 1 team or the number 2 team, but you can be the best team on that given day. And that's what he said in the locker room, which I loved his locker room speech too. He's just a great coach. And that's why Dabo Swinney wanted to learn after him too. But I'm going to give North Carolina to win this one. Coming off a near upset, I'm giving North Carolina. I'm picking North Carolina. Georgia Tech doesn't know what they're doing right now. So I got to go with that. This one's hard for me. This next one, Pittsburgh at Duke. Duke is giving, let me look at this real quick. Looks like Duke is giving 4 points to Pittsburgh. What do you got?
Yeah, Duke's another team that likes to cover the spread when I pick them. Obviously, you were talking about last week when they played Virginia Tech. We called that one, and they ended up beating them outright pretty badly. As a matter of fact, Pittsburgh is just a really up and down team. You really don't know what you're going to get from them. So I'm not really sure what to do with this game, but I'm going to take Duke minus the 4. It usually works out pretty well for me. I hate saying give me the Dukies. It's an awful thing because I'm not a Duke Blue Devils fan. This isn't basketball, so I can't be as hard on them in football. But yeah, I'm going to take them minus the 4.
I like that we're on the same page because you have like almost a 70% win percentage. So I got to be, if I'm on this right page with you, same page with you, then I'm doing well, right? But again, Pitt has done really good at stopping the run. They're kind of like a Miami type team. They only allowed 91 yards per game. They aren't very good at putting up points themselves, though. Kenny Pickett's only got 3 passing touchdowns right now. He's dealing with a shoulder injury. He's kind of questionable for the game. Duke has a very dynamic quarterback who can pass. He's got 842 yards passing. He can run the ball. He's got 303 yards rushing, 12 total touchdowns. Duke is putting up 33.5 points per game. I think Duke's offense is going to be able to keep them alive in this game and keep them, even though I think it will be a close game. Pitt played Penn State close. But I'm going to take Duke as well, minus the 4. That's it for ACC games. Man, there's no Clemson game. It's crazy to even do that. We'll do this week. But top 25. All right, here's some big ones. We got a few. Let's see. We got, looks like 3 big top 25 games coming in this week. Not a lot of Southern top 25 games. It's like two more North top 25 games, but or the Midwest kind of. First one up on the board is number 14, Iowa, at number 19, Michigan. Okay, Michigan is giving 3.5 as of what I have.
Yeah, Michigan rebounded against a bad Rutgers team last week. They slaughtered them. I'm picking Iowa to go into Ann Arbor and pull the upset here. I'm taking Iowa plus the 3.5 here. I don't know why. I like to pull against Michigan. It didn't work last week. I actually went with Rutgers last week to cover the spread. That did not go well for me. I was really hoping they could score some points, and Michigan was going to be down and out after getting, punked by Wisconsin. Didn't work, but I'm going to take the Iowa plus 3.5.
This one's tough, too. I also picked Rutgers as well because I felt like that Rutgers could score a little bit. They kept it within that point spread last year. I felt like, okay, if they kept it within the spread last year, they should keep it within the spread this year. Well, they didn't, obviously. They laid a goose egg, right? Michigan, on the other hand, Shea Patterson had a pretty good game, and everybody's talking like, well, now this is Michigan's turning point, just like it's Florida State's turning point. I'm not on the Michigan bandwagon for sure. Iowa's ranked higher, but the underdog in this, I think due to the fact that it's a home game in the big house, right? But Iowa, you know how I told you last week I look at history? Iowa has won 5 of the last 6 meetings and is averaging 200 yards per game. They got a great run defense. They got a good quarterback, a good running back. It's a must-win game for Michigan, though. They've got to win this game to keep their conference hopes alive, and I think they fumble it. I'm going to go with Iowa to beat Michigan in the big house as well in a higher ranked underdog matchup. Again, next one, this is a big SEC matchup. I know a lot of people are going to be excited to watch. Number 7, Auburn at number 10, Florida. Auburn is giving 3 points over to Florida last time I checked. What you got there?
Look, I understand this game is in Florida, but does this point spread not feel like a trap to anybody else? I mean, Vegas knows what they're doing, but to me, -3, Auburn has looked like an excellent team. As a matter of fact, they could make an argument, to be tops in the polls with some of their wins, a couple of their wins. They beat an A&M team. Like we said, it's not, it doesn't look like to be the win it once was. But they beat a good Oregon team, neutral site at the beginning of the year. They played really well this year. I think they surprised a lot of people with how well they've played. I feel like, Florida's a fraud. We talk about Florida all the time. I think they get way too much credit. I still don't believe in them. I think this is a game Auburn should win by a lot more, but Vegas knows what they're doing. You said you think Vegas knows what they talk about. I can assure you, Vegas knows what they're talking about for most games, on average. So, they can be off on individual games every now and then, but they know something. And I feel like I shouldn't pick Auburn -3, but I have no choice. I mean, from what I've seen on the field, for sure, there's no reason to pick Florida in this game. Auburn should win this game by 20 points, really. But I'm going to have to take Auburn -3.
All right. Well, this is one we kind of differ on a little bit. Auburn's already beaten. They got a pretty good resume. They've beaten Oregon. They've beaten Texas A&M. They've beaten Mississippi State. Mississippi State was the first game you kind of started to see Bo Nix pass the ball more. We noticed in the Oregon game that they took the ball away from Bo Nix and said, hey, don't lose us the game. Just give the ball off to the running back. Mm-hmm. They do a lot of jet sweeps. We saw them play against Texas A&M. Hey, going into College Station and beating Texas A&M like they did, that's pretty good. You can't discredit that for sure. All they did was a jet sweep, though. It was like 15 jet sweeps, and they got 200 yards off that. It's crazy to me to see that game. It was a very boring game. Again, a Texas A&M game I hate watching. But Whitlow is having a great year. They're running back. Again, Auburn is a jet sweep team. Get this, Al. The problem is that Florida can shut down the run game. They have a really good run defense. Florida has 24 sacks on the year, so they can get to the backfield. Can Bo Nix win a game for Auburn? I think if you look back at what he did against Oregon and them basically taking the ball away from him, and you look at Texas A&M and them basically only doing jet sweeps all the time, and you matching up against a good run defense, and you're matching up against a team that can get into the backfield, a lot better than Oregon can. You got a Florida team, much like Florida State, doing a little bit almost better with their backup. Can Bo Nix win it for them? I say no. Give me Florida plus the 3 at home. So I'm going to take that as a big upset there in the SEC. Number 25. This is the last one of our top 25 versus top 25. Number 25, Michigan State at number 4, Ohio State. As we look at it, Ohio State is the favorite and is giving 19.5 to Michigan State right now at the final spread. What you got there?
Well, Ohio State's played a weak schedule so far, as have several of the top teams, undefeated teams, but they've dominated the competition, as they should. It's like you talked about, Kirk Herbstreit, I think, said they should be number 1. There's an argument for it. I don't necessarily disagree with them, but I think you can make, better arguments for other team, even though they may be playing that way down the stretch. I don't know. They're killing their competition. I don't believe in this Michigan State team. I'm taking Ohio State minus 19.5.
Okay, yeah. Nebraska was definitely not a test for Ohio State. Everyone thought they would be. Michigan State has a great defense. Ohio State has a great defense. So you got two really good defenses there. But again, Ohio State really hasn't been tested. I mean, I think Clemson has just as good of a record or a record against opponents that Ohio State does. Now, I will say that Ohio State's not winning games by 1 point, and that's what everybody will say is that, Ohio State's blowing everybody out. The big thing for me is Ohio State leans on the running back J.K. Dobbins. He's got 654 yards with 5 touchdowns so far. And check this out. Hey, Justin Fields, he's kind of a rookie, right? No interceptions so far. So, I like that about him. He's very consistent so far, not put his team in jeopardy by any turnovers. Michigan State's Brian Lewerke, I want to say. I'm not saying it right, but he's quietly, look at his pass yards. 1,325 passing yards with 10 touchdowns from Michigan State. I wouldn't really expect that from Michigan State. It was kind of a head scratcher there. But to me, when you really look at it, Michigan State came out of a game last week. They didn't score a lot of points. And then you look at Ohio State just blowing everybody out. I don't think that you can discount Ohio State right now. I'm going with Ohio State. I think that, really their biggest competition may only be Wisconsin, maybe. So I'm saying that Michigan State loses. Really, if you look at it over the years, Michigan State is one of those teams that just always bites me. Kind of like Virginia Tech, they bite you sometimes, but Michigan State always bites me, and I'm just not going to go with them. I think Ohio State beats them, especially with it being at Ohio State. I'm going with them there. This one I added in here. It's not a top 25 game, but it could have been. I want to give honorable mention to our Pac-12 buddies over there. The Pac-12 at night. California versus what is it? California versus Oregon at Oregon. You know, it would have been a top 25 matchup, but California lost Chase Garbers. We wish him well. We hope that he recovers from his injury. I think he's going to be out for the season. I watched him play against Arizona State, and California was on a roll. It was a big battle. I felt like they were going to eventually pull it out, and then they had to go with their backup transfer, Devin Modster, and he really struggled. So this is a non-top 25 matchup, but give me Oregon to beat California because they're going with this backup quarterback. What you got on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the same way. I liked Oregon from the beginning of the year. As a matter of fact, if you go back and look at our playoff predictions, I do have Oregon. I think I had them losing to Auburn, but still getting in the playoff at the end of the year if they win out. Now, it's going to be interesting with so many teams, going undefeated right now or on the path to be undefeated. I get it. It never turns out that way. I understand that, and I hope it doesn't, obviously. But I think they're going to be there. I think Oregon's a really good team. They have a great quarterback in Justin Herbert. So I think that's definitely a winnable game for them for sure. If you don't mind, I'm going to get to one of our other wonderful show sponsors that we are going to get kind of our sponsor for our third segment, Heating Cooling Services, Inc. They are family owned and operated, serving Anderson County and surrounding areas since 1980. Heating Cooling Services, Inc. is your residential and commercial comfort expert. Anything from preventative maintenance of your home HVAC system to overhauling a commercial chiller and everything in between. If you want to breathe easier and be nice and cool in your home or business this summer, give Heating Cooling Services, Inc. a call today. Ladies and gentlemen, call Mark or Jason Trammell, 864-224-7655. Again, that's 864-224-7655. I've used them myself. They saved me a ton of money. Great service, great friend. I really appreciate all they do for us, and thank you for being our sponsor.
Yes, thank you. And small world, Al, but Heating and Cooling Services not only done Allen's stuff, so they can do residential stuff, but they've also done work for Tiger Sports Shop, which is also another sponsor for us. So it's kind of neat. They can do tens of thousands of dollars worth of work, but they can also do little work too. So they can do everything, like you said, everything in between too. We appreciate them, and we got lost on our giving out our award for our challenge of the week from Buffalo Wild Wings of Greenville, South Carolina. So we appreciate you getting to that, Al. I was about to tell you that. So you read my mind there. We've still got 12 people watching over on YouTube. I know it's getting kind of late for everyone, but we're wrapping it up now. Got 12 people. Clemson Carson just jumped in. Welcome to the show, Clemson. Thank you for joining. And if you missed anything tonight, all of our replays will be up on YouTube for you to check out. We actually break them up into clips so you can digest them in small chunks. You don't have to watch the big show. If you missed it and you want to watch the show or listen to the show, maybe you're riding around, you want to listen to it, check us out on the Roar Radio. We're going to be on the radio every Thursday night from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Same show, a little bit condensed, but you'll be able to check it out again. If you missed it, you can hear the audio from that. Al, what you got over on Facebook before we head out?
We're rolling with 13, so we've stayed pretty consistent here over on Facebook. A lot of people getting in the chats. A lot of people like to give us their picks as well when we do the picks against the spread. Seems to be a pretty popular segment. Obviously, like we always talk about every week, we want a big part of the show to be our fan engagement. So please get in the comments. Tell us what you think. Ask us questions. Please call in. The phone line is there for a reason. We like to get phone calls. We got some great questions here on Facebook. We simply can't always get to them. I'm over here trying to type and respond, but we love to hear from you. Just because we don't respond, doesn't mean it wasn't a good question or a good comment. We like to get everyone we can, but really we appreciate all the support as always.
Yeah, and that last caller that we had last week was actually one of our most popular videos on YouTube. So hey, you could be somebody that gets seen by all the Clemson fans out there with your call. So just make sure you do that next week. Like I said, we don't get any callers, we don't get anybody on hold after about 45 minutes or so. It kind of cuts us off. So, but we'll try again next week. Hey, that's it for the show this week. We hope you enjoyed watching and listening to us. Please check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and The Roar. This is the Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al. It's our bedtime. We're out of here. We hope you have a great weekend. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you at the top of the hill.